All right. So we are here for another exciting session for our Career Pathway series. This is Tyon Walker. I am the Supported Employment and Education Specialist here with the SEED program. And we have a lovely guest here today, and I will pass it on to her. And could you introduce yourself and let us know who you are today?
Sure, I'm Talisa Fowlkes-Austin. I'm a project manager for BMO Harris Bank, and I've been there a little over 7 years. And this is my third career as a professional.
Okay. So you are on your third career. If you could tell us about the first two
Sure.
and kind of how you started your journey as a professional.
Right. The thing that shifted me from just your everyday, I feel like everyday worker, was when I went back to college. After spending 5 years in the workplace, it became very apparent that I was not going to move up unless I got a degree. So I pursued my bachelor's degree. And once I got that, I shifted from what we would call a union worker to professional. And that gave me the opportunity to work in marketing. And I spent quite a bit of time in marketing doing fun stuff. Marketing is very creative. If you're a creative individual, I think you would enjoy marketing. I cut my teeth in marketing from the aspect of trade shows and being able to do corporate trade shows, help plan them out, executing on the floor, learning the products that we had in a very technical environment,
Okay.
which was industrial controls. The company is still here in Wisconsin, in Milwaukee, but it was a great opportunity to learn. My second career kind of piggybacked off of the first one. By the time I left that organization, I was their training manager. I managed all of the logistics, all of the classes that were being done for the organization, but it gave me a real solid background in technology, which I kept learning all the time. And then I parlayed that into working for a resource company. Had a great opportunity to work with Manpower Group. Spent 10 years, I think, there. Roughly 10 years. Started there as a business analyst and worked my way up to an IT manager. Left that, and now I'm on my third career.
Okay.
So, shift all the time. And for banking, my time as an IT manager and managing large implementations, large system changes, infrastructures, and learning all those pieces and doing them as projects opened up the door for me to be a project manager.
Okay.
So,
Okay. So, and thank you for sharing that. So, three career changes. So that seems like there's a lot of different moving parts at all times. What is it about those three careers? Like, what for each of them? What attracted you to each of those pathways?
For me, it was taking advantage of where it was. When the first career, I was an industrial controls company, very engineers driven, and wanting to learn. When you walk into an engineer's area and you ask them what are they working on, and they tell you sensing, and you're like, oh, I know what a sensor is. I kind of know what it does. And he goes, yeah, I'm sensing how a chicken and popcorn cooks in a microwave. Now that technology had not come out yet. Like we're used to it today, right? Today it's a normal thing. But back then it was like, this is amazing. And he explains the pieces to me, right? At that point, I wanted to know more. So then I started having more conversations with the engineers. I took the initiative to sign up to go into the different facilities. So I got an opportunity to tour where they actually made our products. I took the classes, even though I wasn't an engineer. I got lucky enough to work in a training center on a program that was for sales engineers, and I got a chance to grade their papers. Right.
Okay.
You got your little key and things, and you're looking at the answers and you're marking them, and then it's like, okay, so how did they get to that answer? So the curiosity has always parlayed me into something else, right? Keeping my eyes open about different opportunities. I think today you guys call it ear hustle.
Mm-hmm. It's an ear hustle. Yeah.
Yeah, I ear hustled back in the old days. You know, you learn a lot when you ear hustle, right? And when you network with people, and never being afraid to ask somebody, what do they do? How do they do it? And what got them there? You know, those were three, I think, main questions that I would always ask when I wound up in technology. I asked the guys, you know, hey, how are you building this stuff? What does the stack look like? And they're like, how do you know about stack? I'm like, well, I hear you guys talking about infrastructure, and what does that mean? And so they would tell me, and I always prefaced everything by, I don't want to take your job, I just want to understand your job. And people started sharing, and they would give me information. They'd get in I would book time with people, literally. When I went to technology and said, can I have 2 hours of your time? I just want to go in a room and for you to explain this concept to me, or how these pieces work together. And I was really fortunate that people gave me their time, you know.
Okay. Nice. Okay. So you've been in, and thank you for sharing that. You've been in this new space with BMO. You've been there for
going on a little over 7.
Okay. Okay. So in that career, in that field, walk us through what like a normal day would look like.
Okay. Normal day is, my day starts the day before.
Okay.
I have a habit of looking at what's coming next. So for me, my day starts with me knowing what's on the deck, for lack of a better term. Which meetings do I have? Which issues need to be resolved? Are there any risks that need to be addressed or reported? Where are we in the plan that we've been working through? Project management, some people will say it's like event planning. The schedule part, yes, because you're keeping track of everything. You're booking a lot of appointments. You're walking people through the process. You're making sure that people are on time. If they're having issues, you're escalating things. You're trying to help remove roadblocks for them. So it starts, what's on deck? Which meetings do I need to prepare for? Who do I need to touch base with? What are the things that I need to put together? Being in a banking industry is probably a little bit different in that we have a lot of government regulations. So we do a lot of, I would say, extra steps to ensure that we are compliant with government regulations. And BMO has the complexity of being a Canadian bank in a U.S. space, right? So we're often dealing with not only the U.S. regulations, but also the Canadian regulations. So we do a lot of extra steps to ensure that we are compliant, but at the same time, always thinking about efficiency. So my day is really, you know, the one solid thing is that there's a lot of stuff to do every day, and there's several calls. So depending on the size of your project, your calendar can be booked all day with calls. And a strategy that I've learned is to book myself. And that means I need to get a task done, I'm booking my calendar out.
Gotcha.
So not only do you have to manage the activities of the project, but you need to manage yourself.
Okay.
And you have to manage what we call stakeholders. Those are people who have a vested interest in the outcome of the project.
So like a community partner or business or individual.
You know, executive leaders,
Gotcha.
it's people who will wind up using the system or the services. It could be people who have to maintain the product when it's done, promote it or whatever. So yeah, you're managing a lot of parts and pieces.
Okay. All right. So it's always different, but also you have your baseline of
We do.
having a lot to
We
turn
have a
into.
toolbox, as we say.
There you go.
We have a toolbox. That toolbox changes periodically, but for the most part, it's going to be pretty consistent. You've got to know what your project is about. say by the time you're ready to go to college, and all the work you put into preparing for college, right? You've got a plan. You know, what is the outcome that you're looking for? For example, you may be saying, I want to go to school and become a computer engineer, right? Well, you start that plan long before you see the finished product of you being an engineer. So you put together a timeline. I got to be finished with college in 4 years, or I cannot graduate a year late. These
Right.
things can't happen. So you start to manage towards those pieces. And then, of course, you think of your parents as stakeholders, right? Their vested interest is you're going to get done. And I'm going to see you be successful. So you're held accountable to them, not only for what you want, but for their expectations. But your toolbox is your grades. Your toolbox is you're being exposed to different people in different industries. It's having community service. It's you know, just staying on top of your game and studying and figuring out things and coming back and saying, you know, I think there's a better way for me to do this.
All right, cool, and thank you for sharing that. What led you into? I mean, you might have touched on this a little bit already, but like, was there a particular like person, place, or thing that led you into finance? Like,
Yeah.
what was there a moment, or were there multiple moments that were like, you know what, I'm doing finance?
The finance part kind of, it kind of fell in my lap, so to speak, from an industry's perspective.
Okay.
From a personal standpoint, finance has always been important to me. I always go back to my dad. You know, as a kid, it was important for him to teach us financial lessons. I was the kid who could count $5 in cash by the time I was in first grade, right? So I can remember going to the corner store and buying candy, and the guy didn't give me the right change. And I'm sitting there, no, you owe me 10 cents. You know, and he's like, no, kid, get out of here. You know, I'm like, no, you owe me 10 cents. And the owner walked up, and the owner said, that little girl can count money. If she says you owe her 10 cents, you owe her 10 cents.
Okay.
And going to the bank with my dad. You know, that was a normal Friday afternoon practice, going to the bank, seeing how the bank operated. So I would say finance has always been in my blood. When I ran projects, I ran them according to the spend. Even when I thought about things that the company could or could not do, cost was always in my head.
Okay.
You know, even down to we're buying new servers. Why are we buying that brand and not this brand? Because this one's gonna last us longer. But getting the job was, I started as a contractor. A friend of mine brought the opportunity to me, and they were like, "You'd be perfect for this." I was like, "I've never worked in finance. You know, I've been in accounting. You know, I had jobs in accounting and so forth. I've managed large budgets." And then they said, "Just try it. Just." You know, sometimes your friends have to push you into your destiny, right? And I had a conversation, and they hired me as a contractor. And when my contract ended, they asked me to be an employee.
Okay.
So yeah, so I kind of stumbled into
Okay.
it, but I did have the right credentials
Okay.
behind me.
Okay. And could you tell us more about like what that credential looks like, from like a schooling or certification or anything like
Yeah,
like that?
mine is broad.
Okay.
But again, remember I was that person who had a good ear hustle, and if it sounded interesting, I wanted to know more about it. So curiosity gets you access to a lot of things, just being curious. But I went to school to get a bachelor's in business with a minor in computer sciences. So I had that under me. Then I went back and got my master's in business, MBA for a global master's. I thought I'd be in another country with that, but that didn't happen. But in either case, I had laid the groundwork. And while I was in IT, I got certified as an associate project manager. So that opened up a door for project management. When I was in training, I took technical courses that opened up a door to move into technology.
Mhm.
So you don't always have to have that specific degree, but you can have tons of certifications.
Mhm.
You know, I went to the bank with a certified green belt in Six Sigma,
Okay.
you know, with the project management certifications. So sometimes it's certifications, it's not necessarily that you have to have a degree in that field.
Right. Okay. Okay. So in your current role, what would you coin like one of your biggest success points?
Wow, in the current role, I think the biggest success has been mostly working on integration projects where the bank has bought in a new part of the business or taken over another bank, and being able to work on those integrations to see how they're working through not only the data aspects of it, but how do you meld together two companies that may have operated completely different? How do you get the systems to talk to each other? How do you retool and retrain people who have probably been at that other company 20 years, you know, and today, you know, you're telling them, but you're not going to use that system anymore, you know, and figuring how do you train them. So, yeah, so I think those are the big hitters, the big successes. I'm currently on a project that deals with people, technology, processes, and it's amazing. It's amazing. And it can be overwhelming.
Okay. So what are some ways that you take those bigger project management tasks and break them into digestible pieces every day?
There's an old saying, one bite at a time, right? And you have to take the large pieces and you break them down as much as you can. There are other project managers who may break it down even more than I do.
Mm-hmm.
But my philosophy is break it down into workable pieces,
Mm-hmm.
right? I always come from the standpoint that the people on my team or the people that are part of this project, they're here because they're good.
Mm-hmm.
They know what they're doing, you know. We couldn't get it off the ground if we didn't have them in place, right? So I'm not going to give them the, you know, task on how to open up the door, right? You know, you can literally say, well, walk 5 steps. That's a task.
Mm-hmm.
Next task is reach your arm out. Next task is grab knot. No, I'm going to just say, open the door.
Mm-hmm.
In my head, you already know how to do that. But you do have
Right.
project managers who will take it down to a very minute level,
Mm-hmm.
and I put it into workable chunks and in pieces that can be worked in tandem. You know.
Okay. All right. Perfect. Perfect. What would you say is the most interesting part of your career?
I think the most interesting part is realizing that you can shift. You know, you can go from one industry to another industry, or one career to another, if your skill set is good, if you have transferable skills. When I managed a team, it was interesting. They would come to me and say they wanted to take a class, and I would tell them, I said, that's great. I said, is this transferable?
Mm-hmm.
And they weren't used to that.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, well, it'll help me do this. I understand,
Mm-hmm.
but is it a transferable skill? Because you will not always work for me, and you will not always work for this company.
Mm-hmm.
What skill can you build that you can use somewhere else?
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, that's a big thing for me.
Mm-hmm.
If you want me to learn something, can I use it somewhere else?
Use it somewhere else. Okay. So with all of the everything, I might have asked you this. I'm trying to make sure I did not ask you, not repeating questions. If I ever am, say,
No
hey, you
worries.
asked me that already. So what did you? What barriers have you had to navigate, either in this current career or just
In general.
In general, I would love to hear those.
Yeah.
your- we talked about your successes already, but you know,
Right.
we've definitely come up to barriers when we're living life in general. So.
Yeah, I think there's the internal and the external
Okay.
barriers, right? Your internal barriers, I'll deal with those first.
Mm-hmm.
which usually have to do with confidence, right? Because you haven't learned something, you don't feel you're confident enough to learn something new. Because you may have been from a disadvantaged background, you have that internal thing that says, I can't do it. Or, everybody's watching me. Like there's all these things that go on internally, right? That kind of stop you yourself, they're barriers, internal barriers. And you have to kind of get over those, right? It doesn't mean that, the external barriers don't exist.
Okay.
As a female, as a minority, you definitely have those barriers in front of you. And that you, as a minority, it often feels like you have to produce twice as much and be 3 times as good and 4 times as competent. Like you can't walk in and always feel like it's a level playing field, but it's a field that you get to master. So that you got to take that internal conversation, kind of throw it out, and you're never going to get away from the external stuff. That's you're going to deal with inequality. You're going to deal with people not giving you credit for the work that you've done. You're going to still have to deal with companies that may not even value you, right? And those are when you learn how to leave. Leave and do a new career. You might have to edit this part.
We'll keep it in. We can roll the camera. This is the authenticity part that we were talking about, and the truth, and yeah, continue.
But you do. Sometimes you just gotta say, okay, this is not where I need to be right now.
Okay.
But there's the other external. I would say again, we're always dealing with the diversity of things. Not being connected, right? 25 years ago, networking was not what it is today, right? The networks were small, they were powerful, but because it wasn't as social, we got Facebook, we got Twitter and all of that, right? So everybody's connected, and we're connected in real time, right? So one of the external barriers that you yourself can cause is you're not networking. That was hard for me. If you notice, most of the jobs I've had were, I don't need to be out front. I'm behind the scenes. And I like it. But if you're that kind of personality and not being part of a network, not connecting with people, not having your, as we call it, the elevator speech, where you can tell people in less than 2 minutes what you do, what you've done, and what you're working on, right? It can be a barrier because nobody will know who you are. So even if your ear hustle is good,
right,
they don't know you, so they're not going to promote you. They're not going to tell a friend, hey, we got this job coming up. Do you know anybody who's good? That's not going to happen.
Okay. All right. The network. Would you happen to? So you have done a lot of transfer. You possessed a good amount of transferable skills, a great network. How does one build a network? What would you say is the first thing that some of our young people or some of our viewers, can do to start to build their own network?
Yeah, I'm truly an introvert at heart, but I would say the connecting part is getting outside of your shell, going to events. People who are in the tech world, that was a great place because we were all introverts. But we were all our own family of friends, right? But you gotta get yourself out there. Join sites that promote professional organizations. Find out who's at a company that you like. Introduce yourself. see if that company is having an event. As a young person, what we didn't know back then, is go to those companies and ask about their intern programs. As minorities, they don't come to us. We have to go to them. Once you get your foot in that door as an intern, it's gonna open up a whole new avenue of people to connect with. But you have to ask. You know, go into to the banks, go into the car dealer, wherever it is, and ask. You know, does Ford have an internship? What do I have to do to get in the internship program? What schools do they recruit from? Find out the details, and then position yourself to have access to it.
Right, position, being in position is so important in all things, sports, regular life.
Right.
All things, be where you're supposed to be.
They might throw you the ball, but you're not in where you're supposed to be.
Not where you're supposed to be.
Right.
Okay, so thank you for that gem on networking and sharing that, you know, even as an introvert by heart, that you're able to go to network and to build that part of yourself, right?
Join associations. You know, they do have junior. A lot of them have junior ways of getting in, or they will take a high school student. But yeah, do the research. I'm sure it's there.
Okay. Would you happen to know any of the associations in your field right now that you could offer?
We do have a training program. They do recruit from the colleges every year. Summer interns, and some of those summer interns do wind up being regular employees. The great part about internship is when they hire you, you're in the training program. Like, there are people who are already in a business, they won't get that opportunity. But new recruits, absolutely, they go through full-blown training. I do know that, you know, when I was at Eaton Corporation, we had training programs. So I know all companies have them. They don't always publicize to the general or local public. They do their recruiting at colleges, but go and start collecting those pieces from them and ask about it. Like, you know, where do you recruit from? Which colleges? What degrees are you looking for? You know, and start talking yourself up. You know?
Okay, perfect. And then would, you know, on your journey, would it be anything that you would have done differently as you stand here today?
To be honest, the thing I probably would have done differently is spend more time with my family.
Okay.
Spend more time with my family. You know, because the old saying is true, everybody grows up way too fast. And while you can have a great career, you can make a lot of money, the time with your family shouldn't be sacrificed.
Okay.
And I learned that the hard way.
Okay. All right. That sounds. Yeah, I think a lot of us are in the chase, the paper chase. So much so that sometimes we don't pay attention to that part of the equation.
Got to balance.
Working on the balance. Would you say that balance is achievable?
It is. I think it's a mindset.
Okay.
I do think younger generations definitely have that mindset. But you guys are in the grind, like you're saying. Like it's amazing to see young people come into the organization and see them work through the pieces and drive for excellence. But they're so much smarter. Like they're really smart on knowing when it's time to shift. Older generations shifted sometimes because it was circumstances. But yeah, it's a tough one. It's a tough one, but I do believe it's achievable. Yes.
Okay. All right. I like to talk about like the whole person, because we talk about the career and a lot of the time we're looking for, like, you know, beyond sustainable but like lucrative careers and to do all these really interesting things that we do in our jobs and help people and do all those other things, but we definitely got to take care of home first. That
Yeah,
is
where
one
your
of the,
your values come
Right.
with that, and even with your family, like
Mhm.
asking them the question of what are the important moments,
Mhm.
right? Sometimes, when you're so busy on your grind and building your career, um, because you are a little disconnected sometimes, um, it's okay. It's
Mhm.
okay to take a step back and ask your significant other and your kids, like, okay, you know what I do, right? You know how much time I got. Give me your top things that is important for me to be present for. And then you schedule your life around those,
Mhm.
right? Like, when I wanted to really, really want to take vacation, oh, that calendar gets real clean.
It gets really clean.
Gets real clean, like, oh, no, I'm gonna move that meeting,
Mhm.
we're gonna redo this. So it can be done, it's just, understanding what are the things that are important for you to be present for.
Okay. Yeah. Nice. All right. So we've been talking for a minute. I'm enjoying myself
Okay.
per normal. Is there anything that you like? Just we didn't get the chance to touch on that you want to share with us about your career, your journey, you as an individual.
As an individual, I'm pretty laid back, but I like to get things done. Career-wise, I think if I had to do any of it over, um, I think I would have went and shifted more,
Mm. Okay.
not less, more.
Okay.
I would have been more open to leaving.
Mm.
When you're in a sweet spot and you like your job, you like your boss, you like your pay, you like your benefit package, you can stay too long,
Mhm.
right? And knowing that it's okay that you're only going to be at this company 2 years or 3 years, and you're preparing yourself for that shift the whole time, I think is so valuable.
Mhm.
I admire young people, and young professionals who already have that mindset. It's like this track right here is 3 years,
Mhm.
and it moves me over here, and this is 3 years here, and it's gonna move me somewhere else.
Mhm.
I think a lot of us older generations, it's like we work so hard to get here. Like
Mhm.
we don't we
Mhm.
we're not trying to shift or move,
Mhm.
but being open to that and shifting more. If I would have thought, I would have went ahead and got a degree in engineering
Mhm.
or law.
Mm.
I love the law. I would look at people's contracts and with a fine tooth comb, but I would have explored other careers.
Mhm.
I was blessed to have three, but moving into law or really just saying, shut off this internal conversation
Mhm.
that the math is gonna be so bad, you're just not gonna get this, and just do it.
Mhm.
Just do it. Find the support system that you need because that's your passion. My sons follow their passion, right? Like I push them to follow their passion. It's like it's not always the dollar amount, because if it's your passion and you enjoy doing it, it'll never feel like a job, right? And you're gonna constantly learn, right? So I'm big on follow your passion. I like money, so finance was good for me.
Mhm. Mhm.
I like counting it, I like spending it, I like planning it, I like watching it grow. I love it, right?
Right.
So it's great. So I'm learning things while I'm there. But I tell anybody, figure out your passion and then go at it. And then when that's over, don't be afraid to shift.
Mm.
Find your next passion, right? Millionaires, billionaires are doing their things that they're passionate about. Why not you?
Mhm. Okay. All right. So you got anything else you want to plug? You got a social media you want to plug or anything?
No.
Okay.
Remember, I'm
Okay.
the introvert.
Introvert, like nah. It's it. Rewatch this if you have questions.
I'm on Facebook, but I don't post, right? So-
Okay. Okay, perfect. Well, thank you so
You're
much
welcome.
for sharing, all of that, all of those gems and jewels for us today.
You're
Um,
welcome, more
yeah.
than welcome.
Thank you. I'm gonna go ahead and
Turn it
end this.
off.